So you have a new Tech WAV machine, currently running the 8.1F panel, and you want to run the 12.1F panel. In today's video, we'll show you how. Hello, my name is Bryan Yancy, and I'm here at New Tech Machinery in Aurora, Colorado. Today, we're going to talk about converting your WAV machine from the WAV 8.1F to the WAV 12.1F. At any point when using your New Tech machine, you want to make sure that your covers are on and secured in place, and your guards are on the shear, and that you read and understand all of the warning labels around the machine, keeping your hands clear of the shear and the entry. Before we do anything with the machine, we just want to make sure that our lockout tagout is in place so that everybody's aware that the machine is in service. Now that the machine is safely powered down, remove all of the covers. To remove the shear guard and cover, you'll need a 1/2 inch wrench and a 3/8 wrench. First step in changing the WAV machine from the WAV 8.1F to the WAV 12.1F is adjusting the entry guide. To adjust the entry guide, you'll need to move the existing right-hand entry guide position 4 5/16 of an inch to the right, and then follow with a sample piece to adjust the left side entry guide. You'll need a 17 9/16 sample piece of material to set these entry guides. What we're going to need is this outside edge of the right entry guide to be 4 5/16 of an inch from this marking from the factory, which is for your 16.4 panel. So we're going to just put a little mark on here to start with at 4 5/16. Now, before I move my entry guide, I always put a mark just to make it a little bit easier to set the machine up in the future. We're gonna break this adjuster loose. We're gonna move our entry guide over to our mark. Tighten this handle down and then lift and point that back into the machine so your material doesn't catch on it later. Now that we have our right side entry guide set, we'll set our left side entry guide. We're gonna open up this left side entry guide, insert the material, snug the left entry guide to the material. We just slide check that material back and forth, that it goes in and out of the machine, but not left and right. All right, so before moving on to adjusting the other parts of the machine for this profile, we want to make sure that all of our center forming rollers are still in the up position and locked in place. And we still have our upper and lower auxiliary guide rods in place as well. We're going to come to the right side exit of the machine. We're going to use this adjusting handle here to adjust the width of the tooling to the new material. Proper use of this width adjuster, you actually need to put a little pressure in until you feel it engage, and then you can go clockwise for out, counterclockwise for in, and then just make sure you lock it back in place when you're done. So we're actually going to draw these two sections of tooling. We've got the left side section of tooling and right side section of tooling. We're going to bring them away from each other for the wider material. Now, the first thing you want to do to help yourself set the machine up later is measure where you're at for this profile, and then just copy that down onto the gold bar itself so that when in the future you're doing these setups, you know about where your machine should be. Now, we need to add 4 inches of width because we're going from 8 to 12. We need to add 4 inches of width from the inside of the gold bar on the left side to the inside of the gold bar on the right side. So we'll take note of what that width is. 14 3/16. Add 4 inches. We're gonna go to 18 3/16. And make sure you lock your handle back in place. All right, before we get started working on the exit of the machine here at the shear, we need to keep in mind that we're always working over the shear. So we're working at the back or on the front. We're never reaching through. At the shear, when we go to change from the WAV 8.1F to the WAV 12.1F, we're going to need to add a shear blade, change your entry and exit profile die, and then move the shear blade itself. We're gonna need a 9/16 wrench for the shear bar. We're gonna need 9/16 for the shear blade, and then 1/2 inch for our profile dies. What I do to help me in the future remember where things came from, I'll just add a little arrow where the alignment was correct and witness marks on the shear blade. And you can just go 8.1F and 8.1F, cut down on changeover time in the future. So you'll need to start by removing the profile dies entry exit left and right. I recommend using a combination of ratchet and wrench to get in here. Some of these areas are pretty tight. Now what I've done is taken all of these bolts loose, so you're not trying to juggle a wrench, the dies, and the bolts all at one time. Don't lose the sliding mechanisms for the shear and the bearing for the shear. They can get away from you. If it will come out easily, just go ahead and grab that so you don't lose it on the floor. Now, after we get done with the shear dies entry and exit, we're gonna break these bolts loose so that we can move these shear blades out so that we can install another center shear blade in the machine. When we're setting up these shear blades, this bar in relation to the profile, we're gonna need to refer to our manual, and you'll see that the new bolt locations, you'll actually have 2 bolt locations unused. Your first shear blade will fall here. You'll have 2 center shear blades in the center of this setup, and then you'll have your outside shear blade over here in the same place. All right, so we've moved our number 1 blade on the machine right side. We've got 2 exposed holes here. Now we're going to install our number 2 blade, our center blade here. Now, keep in mind we want the shorter of this center blade towards the center and the longer towards the machine right side. Now notice these are all still loose. If you keep them tight, it makes it much more difficult to actually get the blades in. So I broke them all loose, let them play a little bit, and that way, as we install these blades, it's not a battle. I'm gonna just tighten the blades down. Okay, now that we have our shear blades bolted in place, we need to adjust the shear blade position within the shear. There are 7 9/16 bolts on the back side of this shear. We're gonna break those loose. Then we're gonna slide this shear mechanism to the machine left. Okay, the next step, we need to install our sheared profile dies. To do that correctly, we're going to need to bring material through the machine up into the area of the shear. Now that means we're gonna need to take our lockout off the machine and use this machine in maintenance mode. Now understand, when we're in maintenance mode, we don't want to be near the shear. We don't want to be hands in the machine. We want to make sure we keep our hands clear of the machine internals, clear the shear while we're doing this. Now that we have our lock off the power switch, E-stops are pulled out, we're in maintenance mode. We're going to start the hydraulic pump, then go to the entry of the machine and feed the material through. Once we have our sample piece in the machine, jog the first couple of feet, then I go to the other end of the machine and jog it the rest. All right, when we're jogging material through the machine, we want to make sure that we do it a little bit at a time. We don't want to get carried away, and we want to listen closely for any potential issues. We just want to make sure that our lockout tagout is in place. Now we've brought the material in the machine up to the shear blade, just a few inches back. We're gonna eyeball where the dies, the profile dies, should line up with the material. To get the best alignment of this left exit profile die on the machine, we want this edge of the die to line up with the tooth when our camming mechanism is installed. And then this line, as this picture depicts on the profile, should line up just with the outside of that rolled over hem. This is the WAV 121F profile specific right side die for exit, and it should butt up almost to your left side die. We want to put a few bolts in there to hold it in place. Now at this point we have both the left and right die kind of snug, just hand tight in location. So now we're going to remove our lockout tagout lock. All right, now we've brought the material through the machine up to the shear itself. Now we're gonna bring the material through the shear dies just to check to make sure we don't have any alignment issues. Make sure you're in forward and jog. And then we're just going to carefully once we get the material out, we're gonna turn the machine off and lock it out. Now that we have verified the alignment of the shear dies and the shear blade, we've unlocked the machine, we're gonna power it up and we're gonna jog the material back about 8 inches so that we can get inside of the machine safely and install the entry side shear dies. Make sure the machine's in reverse, jog. Then we're gonna turn off the power and lock it out again. Okay, next thing we're going to install left side entry shear die. Next step, we're gonna install this right side shear guide. Your entry profile die is actually slightly larger than your exit. And it's very important at this step that you have consistent offset on both the left and the right side of this die with your entry and your exit die alignment. So make sure when you're setting up, you take additional time just to make sure that the offset on the left side and the right side is consistent. Now we're gonna get ready to power the machine up. We're gonna bring the material through the shear, jog out about, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches, and then we're gonna cycle the shear just to do a test cut. Make sure your machine's in forward, jog. You'll need to utilize the maintenance mode shear buttons on the side of the controller to ensure that your hands are safely away from the machine. Make sure you fully cycle the shear blade down and up. Then you have your first cycled shear. Now that you've produced your first sample panel for the WAV 121F profile, go ahead and take a look, check the dimensions on your hems and your legs and the profile itself just to make sure there aren't any additional adjustments needed for this panel. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.